What's up, Greg? This episode has been totally created using AI. Nothing you see or hear is real. Let's get to it.
Welcome. Another real episode of IBF On Demand. I'm your deep fake and completely real host, Eric Wilson. You can find me at eric@ibf.org. That's eric@ibf.org. Thanks for the follows, the subscribes. Follow me on LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. I am there. We are the fastest growing podcast about demand planning and business forecasting on the internet. Trust me. I don't care what somebody else says. It's real. Just don't look it up. I want to thank Arkiva, driving business transformation by solving what others cannot. Thank you, Arkiva. Great partner, great supporter of you, the practitioner out there as well. So check them out at Arkiva. We do have a boot camp coming up. We have a boot camp coming up December 6th through the 9th. It's going to be in Austin, Texas. It's a great boot camp for people who are demand planners and some other type of role, or you just want to know a little bit more about supply and your demand, or you want to know a little bit more about demand and supply. Why am I saying that? Because this is a supply and demand boot camp. It really focuses on both sides, gives you a great fundamentals, and really how not only to do both if that's your goals, but how to really work with the others if that's not your goal as well. So check that out at ibf.org. It's a great boot camp coming up. Today, we are going back into the world of AI and talk a little bit about what is real, what is myth, and what may be just a little bit of exaggeration. I mean, it truly is a conundrum. I was at a conference in Cincinnati. There was a great panel that actually had a little bit of this discussion on it, and that's where I have one of today's very special guests is going to be part of. They were part of that and going to be part of this episode now as well. But it's not just that one conference. Everyone's talking about this. People at all these conferences are either speakers or I'm hearing and on panels people talking about AI. And I had some great questions from someone on Teams recently exactly about this question and decided, hey, I'm going to do a podcast about it because that's how podcasts are created. You ask me a question, it becomes a future podcast. So I needed to, or it behooved me to unpack this a little bit more and have a discussion on AI. That's why I'm bringing in Karin. I'm bringing in the big guns. Karin is a recognized influencer in supply chain innovation, known for her expertise as an industry advisor and her role as host of Tech Talk Digital Supply Chain podcast. She has earned numerous accolades, including recognition as the 2020 Supply Chain Pro to Know of the Year and 2023 Woman in Supply Chain Award. She's has 25 years experience in supply chain and technology expertise. In her words, the scars to prove it. She's a sought after speaker and like myself, works with and advises many software companies. She has over 1,000 companies she has helped over the decades. Please help me welcome Karin. So welcome, Karin.
Hey, it's great to be here with you, Eric. I've been a big fan of the show.
Oh, thank you. Great seeing you at the conference. Before I get into this topic we have today about AI, I just wanted to I want to congratulate you or celebrate with you your accomplishments. I guess 2023 Women in Supply Chain Award. And I think it's a few years in award, and it's not just you either.
No, it's not. It is so exciting. First of all, thank you so much to Supply and Demand Chain Executive for the recognition. But Eric, I'll tell you what's really exciting is that there were 400 nominees. And that to me is just a great reflection of recognition in the marketplace that women are contributing in a number of ways to supply chain improvements across the board. And so it's exciting to see that grow as it has. And once again, I'm very humbled to have been named amongst some of my peers that have just done some really great things in the industry and bringing new folks into supply chain roles.
And it's a great to have more and more women in there. I mean, your personal, before we get into the topic, why do you see this? Why do we see, because I've, over the past few years, seen more and more role models compared to just 4 or 5 years ago. I mean, obviously there still need things to be done, but there seems to be more role models. I mean, why is it? Is it because of more of the push to get, women and young females into STEM? Is it because technology is more part of it? Or is it just because we're talking about it more?
I think you've got it. I think all of the above would be the answer, because the motivations are different for different people. But when I started my career, it was very common for me to be the only female in the room, or the only female working with a plant manager, or, and I got used to it very early in my career. It is exciting now to have females that you can look to as a role model, as a woman, to see other women in the field. But the bottom line is you are going to get your opportunities based on your skills. So I want you to think about, to me, the best quality in supply chain professionals is that they are just natural problem solvers. They just think through opportunities, whether they're new innovations or solving problems as they exist today. But as technology takes more and more forefront in how we plan, your ability to articulate and influence others and talk about the merits of one scenario over another scenario, that's game-changing stuff. And men and women can do that equally.
I just recently had a question came in from a woman in supply chain. And part of the reason why I'm doing this topic is I thought it'd be great to have this discussion with someone who I respect as far as their thoughts on this as well. When it comes to AI, her questions, by the way, she said, when it comes to AI and systems, is it something tangible or something they're all doing? Is it something you can point to and say, yeah, that's AI inside that system?
Yeah. Hey, that's a really fair question, because artificial intelligence is being incorporated in a number of different ways, right? So there's not just one flavor of artificial intelligence. There's things like robotic process automation, RPA, that we've been talking about for years. There's data cleansing and data augmentation that's been happening for years. There's deep learning in systems. There's predictive and prescriptive analytics. These things are projecting futures based off of a current set of data. Some of the newer things that have captured people's excitement are these large language models, or natural language processing. And probably the best example of that is ChatGPT, which has gotten everybody excited this year, right? But when you think about ChatGPT, think about that as a way to accelerate how you interface with technology, or how technology goes out and evaluates a set of data and brings back a set of results for you. So I understand her confusion, because AI can mean lots of different things. You can do machine learning and not leverage natural language models. You can leverage the Internet of Things to use sensors to monitor environmental conditions or product in the mix, but it's what you do with that data that gets collected that then allows you to make better decisions. And that's really what AI is all about. Evaluating large data sets. AI is data hungry. The more data you feed it, the better answers it's going to give you. And thinking about the problems you want to solve, because the AI has to be trained. It has to be configured in a way that's going to solve a meaningful set of problems.
So then I think that's a great follow-up. Her next question then was, when systems say they do AI, or when you say, hey, this is now AI, are we supposed to know what that means? From her perspective, training a model, what it's doing, is it important to know what it's doing, or that it just does something?
I think it's important to know what it's doing. I think it's important for you to approach artificial intelligence with a use case in mind. With an outcome, with something you're trying to do better, faster, or more granularly in your business. So when you're thinking about artificial intelligence, I want you to think in terms of, what can we automate? how can we drive more precision into the plans, right? So you're a planning expert, Eric. We want to plan at multiple levels of the business. We want to look at channel specific indicators. So that precision, right, and the ability to do that quickly is an easy way for AI to augment what you're doing today. So speed, evaluating multiple scenarios. I remember when I started doing sales and operations planning, we were really excited to have a best case, worst case, and a most likely scenario, right? 3 scenarios. I thought we were
high,
just,
low, here it is. Yes.
right. Now these systems are literally evaluating hundreds, if not thousands of scenarios, right? With little micro changes here and there. So when it comes back and gives you like 3 scenarios to consider, your confidence level just goes through the roof, because you know that for the 3 it presents, it may have evaluated 100 or 1,000 different flavors and derivatives. So that to me is really exciting, to know and have that kind of confidence boost in making better decisions, because this is all about serving up those insights to make better decisions and then automating the routine stuff. And Eric, it feels like it's happened overnight, but you and I have been in this segment long enough that we used to talk about exception driven, right?
Yep.
Because
exactly.
if it was exception driven, that meant I could automate all the stuff that was inside, a certain tolerance level. And then I only had to engage with the items or the situations that were, triggering those exceptions. This is just putting that on steroids.
Okay. So then her last question to me was, she's at a conference, everyone's talking about AI, everyone says they did AI. Her question then was, if I'm not doing AI right now, am I behind? Are we behind? If you're not currently doing AI, are you already behind?
I'm going to ask a simpler question.
Okay, please.
How many spreadsheets are you using today? And if you are still using spreadsheets for your planning process, you are behind.
Okay, okay. 40% of companies out there, according to IBF research, 40% of companies out there are still using Excel as their primary planning.
I know.
So,
I mean,
yes.
I queued that up for you, Eric. So anybody still relying on Excel is falling behind. Quite honestly, if that is still your primary mechanism to link demand, inventory, supply, to manage your S&OP process, you need to be making some investments in technology and look at automation and gaining insights. Now, if you are on a system or a platform and it incorporates some artificial intelligence, I want you to lean into that, to figure out what it is, what they're automating, what machine learning, what does that mean? We throw out this term ML or machine learning all the time, right? Because we needed more acronyms in the supply chain.
Of course.
But what that means is systematically, your tools should be getting smarter over time, because it gets continually trained. It continually learns based on the behaviors or the scenarios that you enact in the system, right? So machine learning, the machine, your computer system, your software, your platform, is going to look at what the situation was, what the selection was, and then give you a grade, right? And figure out, how do I improve on that next time? So it gets incrementally smarter over time, which is wonderful. It captures that and helps us to get smarter, to rely more, and to trust the system. And this is one area where I think, back to ChatGPT or other natural language models or large language models, Eric, I got to tell you, I was fascinated. I'm in a sales and operations planning session, and we are running a pilot with some software that has artificial intelligence that uses a natural language interface. And the chief supply chain officer is sitting there, and we're talking about a couple of different scenarios. And he asked a question in business terms about what should we do with, the certain situation. And in the past, the analyst would have taken that question, left, and come back 2 days later with a recommendation. Right?
Yep.
Smart analyst,
Exactly.
understood the problem, needed to go back, do some legwork. But we asked in natural language, in business terms, typed in the question, and in 5 seconds, an answer came back. And so we're like, reading off the answer, showing them a couple of scenarios. And his reaction was, great, let's do number 2. Next question. And I was like, okay, wait, time out. Help me understand why your confidence level is so high, right? Because I wanted to hear it in his terms.
Yeah.
And that was exactly it. I asked a business related question. You gave me a business response. You gave it to me quickly while I was still in the zone. I still understood my problem. I knew what was available to us. My team is in the room. They're all nodding that all 3 of these are doable. And so I picked one of the 3. I have a very high confidence level because there was no delay. So that's back to the speed, right? To the getting the answer in the moment, and being able to put their brain around that in the context. And I said, so tell me in the past, how would you have done this? He said, in 2 days or 3 days, depending upon my calendar, we would have had another call and they would have presented whatever they considered, they being the planning team, the S&OP team, what they considered the best options available. And we would have, made a decision. But that would have been another hour-long conversation because it would have taken us 10 minutes to get in the zone, to reevaluate the problem, to talk about the answers, et cetera. And I said, So here in the midst of about 5 minutes, they made a decision that was a good, reasonable decision that the team had confidence in. That to me is the game changer around a natural language interface. Yeah, if I can do it that fast.
I can definitely see that because you're while you had his attention, you could solve a problem and you're speaking their language as well.
Yes.
And AI can definitely help enable that. I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah. It made an impression on me. I was just like kind of taking it all in. It was really exciting, but to ask the question about why are you so confident? And I had never considered the fact that it's the stop-go process, right?
Yeah.
And that it takes you, when you go into a meeting, you've done hundreds of S&OP meetings. It takes time to get acclimated, to talk about the issues, and then get to the actual decision making. And they were just able to accelerate that whole process.
And one of the worst things is like, well, we need to go check this and do this. And I know companies for years have been trying to bring in the visual analytics so you can see everything. But to be able to have that other person in the room that's a chat GPT or natural language interface be another seat at the table answering questions is powerful. I can see that.
Yeah. So that made an impression on me.
I can definitely make an impression on me too. I can definitely I can see the benefit of that. One of the biggest problems, even you mentioned, they're data hungry. So a lot of these models are going to be data hungry, and if you look at it from a demand planning perspective, most people are sitting on 3 years worth of history, and even it's not that good a history. And now they're trying to do machine learning, with a training data set, a test data set, and they have no data sets left after they're done.
Yep. Well, and what you just said is a limitation of some of the older systems in the marketplace, right? Where you could only bring in a certain number of data streams or demand signals. Now, with some of the newer solutions that are in the marketplace, you can bring in numerous demand signals and look at that. And that is one thing that artificial intelligence does a really good job at. Being data hungry means it can consume large quantity of data in a very short period of time. And when we're thinking of 3 years of history, right now, that's all 3 years of COVID, right? That's
pretty much.
That's all 3 years of COVID and recovery from COVID. Versus a good, stable 3 years of time series data in the marketplace. And so right now, market demand signals are really priceless. So being able to get that POS data or look at syndicated data. And in the past, there have been tons of efforts in this area, but it's just been hard. But some of the use cases that we're seeing in this area of artificial intelligence is exactly that. It's in this demand sensing and improving forecast accuracy so that we can deploy the available inventory to satisfy customers, right? Either customer priority or promotions, whatever it might be in the consumer goods space. But it is a time, I think, that you really need to bring in some additional demand signals. So many companies, of course, had disrupted demand during COVID, but they also rationalized their product portfolios. So we're in there jimmying the totals, right? Because we're going to a smaller product structure so that we can get better production through it and have less variability. So we introduced a whole lot of reason for change inside product families as well. And it's time to get back to some science around what does the market want, right? Because that's what the demand forecast is supposed to be. And then we can start constraining that by our ability to produce or invest in that inventory.
So are you seeing then a rise in systems and some technology to efficiently clean and structure some of that data? Because people, they can get data, but they're drowning in their own data lakes right now, is what we see.
Yeah. That's the perfect word, drowning in it, right? We're drowning in data, but we're still starving for insights.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what some of this technology is doing. And actually, that's a really good application of artificial intelligence, is to evaluate large data pools, to exclude outliers, to look for patterns, right? The science is basically looking for patterns based on the data that's available. And we're definitely, seeing that happen in a number of different ways to get greater precision, right? So not just item level precision, but it's item level precision in a specific channel, in a specific region that's being served, right? So, I think back 20 some odd years ago when we were working on collaborative planning, forecasting, and replenishment, and it was just tough to get, my top 10 customers and understand what was going to go through retail for those top 10 customers. This is segmenting it in a number of different ways. And it's just really exciting to see that and be able to visualize it and then use it as a predictor of future demand as well.
So I got one final question for you. We talked about the myth, the exaggeration. We talked about some practical things we're seeing right now. Okay, this I'm kind of asking you to what you're seeing in the future. What are some rarely discussed, maybe either data or analytics trends that are actually may materialize or you see being implemented or have promise that a lot of people may not be talking about right now for applications for supply, demand, S&OP, things of that sort?
Yeah, I think there's a number of just really cool things going on. I've been doing some work with an agricultural company that is using drones to monitor some of their miles and miles of acreage, right? And they look at everything from cattle to, to wheat or soy or whatever they may be harvesting. But the deal is that they have to translate those photographs into counts of cattle, for example, right? That's artificial intelligence. It identifies visually what it is.
Yep.
And this has changed the game for them. Another application of, using drones to do exterior inspections. And an inspection can happen in 20 minutes, where beforehand it took 2 hours, maybe more. And I had to put my people at risk, right? They're climbing up and doing things from a health and hazard perspective. I don't have any of that now. So these are ways that we can visually document and look and monitor certain situations, but we have to translate those visual aspects into data that then gets used to predict future demand. So if I'm looking at crops in the field and I'm monitoring rain or soil moisture, that can now be a predictive indicator of harvest time, right? So these things are all just kind of coming together. And if you're in fresh and frozen and processed, right, you're thinking about your harvest in a number of different ways. And one day maybe doesn't make a big difference, but a week or 2 weeks makes a huge difference, right?
Okay.
In harvesting and moving those goods. And when I need rail cars and barges to bring those products to market, it's just fascinating to see that we are getting new data to predict and prescribe future opportunities, and that it's coming together just in a number of different ways. And my recommendation is look for a use case in your business. Demand and forecast is a great place to start, because we are seeing improvements in forecast, another 20% reduction in forecast error rates. That's huge. IBF,
huge.
by the way, IBF gets a plug here. Some of the best numbers available when you're looking at benchmarking your forecasting process. So dig into those numbers and look at what that means to your business, because improving or reducing your forecast error rate by 20% is tangible.
That's 2 to 3% to the bottom line based on our IBF research.
Exactly. There you have it from the expert.
Well, I have to end it on, that's a mic drop at that point, at that note. No, unfortunately, we're out of time. I think that is a great way to wrap it up. So I want to thank you for your time of being able to provide your insights on AI, what it is, where we are, and where we're going. So I really appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me, Eric. This has been a lot of fun. And again, been a big fan of your podcast for, I guess, a couple of years now since you've been doing it. And keep up the great work. And IBF, keep up the great research. We need research. We need to be able to benchmark ourselves and know what's possible.
Thank you. I'll see you at a future conference.
Look forward to it. Take care.
Bye. 95% of all tech innovation is meaningless. That's what I heard. And I mean, think about that. Most of what you're seeing is AI today. It's not going to be the same iteration in the near future. It's going to continue to adapt. And what we know as the AI, you may not even have a glimpse of today. I mean, AI has its advantages, but the human factor remains critical to its success. Humans contribute unique qualities to business processes and operations. I mean, think about the ethical judgment aspect of it. Think about the creativity. Think about the emotional intelligence, the accountability that's not present yet in AI. It's still going to be people, then process, then AI as an extension or a tool. It is an enabler for good people, good processes to do even better. So with that, I recommend focus on the problem, not try to fit it in a solution. I mean, AI is a solution sometimes looking for a problem. Don't be that person. Focus on the problem, not here's this shiny new penny, I'm going to try to find a place to put it in. Focus on what you're trying to solve. And then define the problem and also define the technology. That's part of the problem is nobody can really define AI. It's an ambiguous term still. So not only define the problem, define the technology you're using to solve that problem as well. AI is an ambiguity. There's no one benefits really from an ambiguous term and ambiguous types of things that you're saying you're doing when not really knowing what you're doing yourself. Don't use the term for just the sake of using it. Don't be that person. We're going to define it and we're going to use real technology to solve real problems. And then finally, technology investment, make sure it matches the organizational changes, the business process, and the employee skills training. Don't forget about the people. We need to continue to build them as well. Well, that's a wrap. Unfortunately, AI has not found a way to cook me my meals the way I like it, so I'm going to go get something to eat. Of course, I like bougie food, so I'm going to go find me a nice restaurant. My name is Eric. This is Eric IBF On Demand. You can find me at eric@ibf.org. That's eric@ibf.org. I want to thank Arkiva, driving business transformation by solving what others cannot. Thank you, Arkiva. And remember, in December, for reals, we're going to be doing a boot camp on supply and demand. I'm betting AI may be a topic, but we're going to talk about the people and the process sides of things, the fundamentals. If you do both, either or, this is the boot camp in Austin, Texas, December 6th through the 9th. Check it out at ibf.org. And finally, remember, with AI, still things you need to do. Don't forget, wash your hands.